Let's be completely honest, it's been a pretty fantastic start to the year for Nikola Motors as they started deliveries for their Tre BEV, built up their order backlog with all new customers, and finally completed the validation for their Tre fuel cell alpha prototype. And as you all know, just last week we had Anheuser Busch officially start testing the Tre FCEV to deliver some of their Bud Light beers ahead of the Super Bowl. But despite all of this, I'm still seeing a ton of people bag on Nikola's progress simply because the stock price hasn't skyrocketed 50% in a single trading day. And so in this video, I'll be giving you guys the lowdown on Nikola's partnership with Anheuser Busch, how that could translate into catalysts for the company, and at the end, I'll analyze the stock chart to share the big reason why Nikola's stock has been performing so poorly over the past few months. But before we get into it guys, make sure to drop me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's kick things off by analyzing the big news that came out this week from Nikola, where Anheuser Busch finally announced the fact that they're testing the fuel cell prototypes of the Tre FCEV ahead of one of the most watched events in the entire country. If you've been a longer-term Nikola investor, you guys should already know that Anheuser Busch has actually been a very key supporter for Nikola ever since 2019, which is when they ran the Nikola 2 prototype when that truck was initially being tested for its proof of concept. But obviously now that the fuel cell version of the Tre is getting closer to production, we're seeing this new push from Anheuser Busch to test the Tre FCEV before they start deploying it in their own fleets. And this actually came alongside the test of another truck from BYD, which is actually a fully battery electric truck called the 8TT. And as you guys can see, the big reason for this partnership is that Anheuser Busch has set a pretty aggressive goal of getting to net zero carbon emissions by 2025, which obviously is going to require a lot of support for some of their big logistics partners, especially to the ones that Nikola is targeting specifically. And this is most definitely a very big indicator of the actual demand that a lot of companies have to decarbonize their fleets, because Anheuser Busch is one of the biggest beer makers in the entire country, and now that they've set this very aggressive goal and they're actually testing these zero emission trucks in real life, you're going to see a lot of other companies also take on this action, as obviously there's a lot of demand to decarbonize fleets, reduce carbon emissions, and overall support more sustainable transportation. And as you guys can see, BYD primarily focuses on battery electric trucks instead of fuel cell trucks, and so it's pretty clear that Anheuser Busch has selected BYD for their partner on the BEV side and Nikola for their partner on the fuel cell side. And as we all know, Nikola has already started delivering their own battery electric trucks to port companies in Los Angeles, and so this testing phase with Anheuser Busch is definitely going to act as a very good catalyst for Nikola to start selling their own fuel cell trucks after they enter production at the end of this year and 2023. But it still seems like a lot of people are skeptical of Nikola because they've been releasing these press releases and these Twitter and social media posts about all these testing and delivery phases with these partners. And honestly, I don't understand that argument, because at the end of the day, the company's goal is to raise awareness about zero emissions transportation, and who else is going to raise awareness about their own testing process apart from the company itself? As a matter of fact, Jason Roigt, who is the global head of the fuel cell program at Nikola, has said in a recent tweet that right now the testing they're conducting is not going to be just for a single day, and the fact that they're actually doing this every single day of the week with more than one truck, which obviously is a great step in the right direction for Nikola to move towards that beta and production phase for this fuel cell truck. And this should give ample time for Nikola to start developing connections and actually building out a hydrogen infrastructure in a local community around Arizona, and obviously in one of their investments down in Indiana. And this graphic right here really sums up the whole need for hydrogen fuel cell vehicles in one nice picture, because it shows that to power around 50 Class 8 BEV trucks, you're going to need around 9 megawatts of power, which is the same power you will need to power the Empire State Building. And this is a key component that a lot of hydrogen haters don't analyze, which is the fact that when you have all these trucks on the road that might need to be powered by battery solutions, you're going to have a lot of strain on the electric grid, and right now that electric grid is simply not ready for that, as we saw through what happened in Texas last year. And when hydrogen is made from green resources or from resources that are very low carbon, which is exactly what Nikola is trying to do, then you're going to have much more overall benefit when you're using a fuel cell platform instead of a battery platform. And obviously that's not even accounting for the longer range, the longer reliability, and the quicker recharge times that you're going to get with a fuel cell powered vehicle. And if you pull up the fuel cell development timeline that Nikola shared back in August of 2021, you guys can see that they have completed every single goal that they had staged out in this specific timeline, which included the alpha validation and then the road release of the fuel cell vehicle with Anheuser Busch and LA. And as you guys can see, Nikola has been lending out their fuel cell electric prototypes to logistics companies in and around California. And as you guys might remember, a few weeks ago, Nikola ended up running their fuel cell trucks around 350 miles on a single tank, which again goes to show that these trucks are very much ready for the road. And now it's going to be all about figuring out supply chain issues and getting customers to get these trucks in the hands of. So now that we know exactly what Nikola has been up to over the past month or so, let's address the big elephant in the room, which is the stock price and its underperformance over the past month or so, which has led to a lot of bears and haters become even more skeptical about this company. And honestly, I find that hilarious because at the end of the day, the stock price is simply not representative of the business in the short term. As a long-term investor, I don't really care what the stock price does in the short term, and my own cost basis right now is around $11.56, which means that I'm well underwater. But it's not like I've been panicking or panic selling my stock or been complaining on Nikola's Twitter post about the stock price being down. I've simply been taking this opportunity to add more shares as the stock has been going down. Because at the end of the day, my goal is to build a bigger ownership position in this company instead of worrying about what the stock price is in the short term. Because as is clear with what happened with Nikola's stock back in 2020, the stock price can get very much separated from the fundamentals of the company. But as you guys can see, the big reason for why Nikola's stock has been going down specifically over the past month or so is because the Russell 2000 ETF has been basically in a bear market for the past month. If you guys haven't been keeping up with the news lately, the market's been crashing very aggressively over the past month or so as people try to price in higher interest rates, and obviously inflation has gone out of control. And as you guys can clearly see, Nikola stock has been basically mirroring what's been happening in the IWM Russell 2000 index. Both Nikola and IWM essentially formed this pretty good support and bounced from it multiple times over the course of 3 months or so. And then in the middle of November and October, we had this very nice rally in the IWM index, which obviously also translated with Nikola stock and this big short squeeze. But obviously ever since the middle of November, this IWM index has been selling off very aggressively with all the fears around Jerome Powell, inflation, and obviously the Omicron variant. And as you can see, that was exactly translated onto Nikola stock as well. And just like the IWM bounced around the middle of December, Nikola stock also bounced very nicely. Obviously, we had this Nikola delivery day that put in a lot of volume into the stock and ran it up a little bit. But as you can see, the IWM index really did not allow Nikola to really stretch its wings. And instead, the index kept selling off aggressively. And when it broke through the support level, it ended up getting this massive acceleration to the downside, which as you can see was also translated onto Nikola stock. And so the bottom line is that Nikola stock is essentially following the market in the short term right now. So it's really more important to keep up with what the market's doing in the short term if you guys want to really track where Nikola stock is potentially going to go over the next month or so. And as you guys can see through HYLN stock on the left, which is a company that essentially sells renewable natural gas trucks, their stock has been performing much worse than the IWM index. And instead of forming support levels and bouncing with the indices, this stock has just been on a very big tear to the downside, which goes to show that this stock does not have that much institutional support. Whereas with Nikola stock, it's very obvious that institutions have actually been buying that stock up because obviously it's tracking the actual small cap index very well. And as you guys can see, this is a very similar story with Lucid Motors, whose stock price ended up outperforming the IWM late last year, but then ended up tanking more aggressively over the short term. And as you guys can see, even though the IWM index has been going up and pulling back very slightly, Lucid Motors has not gone up and actually pulled down even more aggressively. And so what this shows me is that institutions and hedge funds are actually cashing out of Lucid Motors instead of actually building their positions in that specific stock. So the bottom line is that in the short term, Nikola stock could definitely go down more if the market continues to sell off. But as a long-term investor myself, I really don't care because it just gives me an opportunity to buy this company at a cheaper price. And unless something fundamental changes with the business, I am not planning to sell any shares anytime soon. But anyways guys, make sure to drop me a thumbs up if you found some value from this video. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think of Anheuser Busch's recent delivery runs with the Nikola tray. And also feel free to let me know how many shares of Nikola do you guys own and what is your time horizon for this investment. But anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.